constraints and how these play together is important. It's really an integrated problem when you look at the weather in this situation, right? It's not just about the launch and the ascent of the launch vehicle, but in this case, we also need to consider what the weather's doing for the abort. We want to make sure that we're going to be able to safely abort and also safely recover the vehicle when we get to the ocean. So we have to look at things like wave height and wind speeds as well for that, for those purposes. You know, one of the things I want to mention is if you look at the slide in the bottom part of it, it mentions that that this Falcon has flown many times, and this is kind of exciting. And I don't know, Kathy, if you knew this or not, but the Falcon that's flying tomorrow has flown 3 times before. Tomorrow will be its 4th flight, and this is the first Falcon Block 5. So Block 5 Falcon was the major upgrade to Falcon that we did in order to carry crew and to become human rated, human spaceflight rated. And this is the first vehicle that flew in the Block 5 configuration. And it's going to refly tomorrow for this test for the Commercial Crew Program. And as another interesting point, our launch that we're planning later this week for Starlink is actually going to fly the same Falcon that flew Demo 1 as well. So have some fun little trivia there too. We'll go to the next slide.
It's a good vehicle.
It's a good vehicle. Kathy already talked about this, and I think it's super important to understand. And the value of this test is not just in doing the launch abort or the launch escape system test, right? There's a huge amount of work that goes into this. One of the things you want to do, and as I mentioned, you know, this is a whole system, and part of that system are all the people who are operating, whether it's the astronauts like Bob and Doug, as you see on the screen, or you know, all of the hundreds of people who are working at NASA and at SpaceX to operate the vehicles and ensure safety. And so we want to practice, practice, practice. We want to test like we fly, and we want to practice like we fly. And the great thing about doing this test, aside from the main objective of proving out the launch escape system, is we get to do all of that. So in the lead up to this, we did that dry dress today. That went very well. And it's not just that the crew gets suited up and goes out to the pad, goes up the tower, they walk all the way out to the Dragon. We got to time that. We actually ran it without any stops. We wanted to make sure that the timing that we've been practicing for the last many months is accurate, and it was. We learned some lessons. We take some notes. We apply them to make sure that launch day with crew will work very well. But we also get to have all of the operators on console. So the operators went on console early this morning. Some folks were there at 1 a.m., you know, starting up the whole process of getting ready to go. And they get to practice that whole process of what it's going to be like to have the crew board Dragon. And then tomorrow is the same idea. Not only is this a test of the launch escape system, but everybody gets to practice the process of launching crew. On that note, we will be loading the Falcon the same way, loading the propellant on Falcon the same way that we will load on the crew missions. We've actually done that a number of times on previous flights. We'll continue that process of doing crew loading on the crew configuration loading on Falcon. And just to kind of reiterate what that looks like, right? So ultimately, the crew goes up into, like I mentioned, they go up the tower, they go into the crew arm, they get into Dragon, they get into their seats, they get all plugged in. We shut the hatch, they're safe and sound. About 2 minutes before we start propellant loading on Falcon, we arm the launch escape system. And this is a key point, right? So the crew is in there, they're safe and sound. We arm the launch escape system, and then we start propellant loading on Falcon. Propellant loading takes about 30 minutes, and then we launch. And the idea here is that we're minimizing exposure to crew, both the astronauts and also the ground crew and everybody who's supporting them, to the actual process of having propellants loaded on the rocket and during that propellant loading time. We're going to practice that again tomorrow. Overall, for the test timeline, you know, we're, again, test like you fly. Everything else will go just about as we would expect to on launch day with crew. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide and see